It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's the GOAT, I'll tell you who's not great. And which team always make you go right way. Yeah.
Welcome back, guys. It is your boy, Bubba Lutz, bringing you a brand new episode of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast. We are in post-draft depression. This was the only bit of sports that we've had in a very long time, but it was a lot of fun. I thought the virtual draft was fun to watch. If you were here to check out the streams on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. We had a lot of fun. As you can tell if you're watching this video, I don't have my beard. And if you're listening to this and you're driving, you're listening to this, no matter where you are, I know what you're saying. You shaved the beard? Yes. So sit down, have some water, relax. It's going to be fine. I already got the stubble in, looking pretty good. I look like a 12-year-old right now, but in a week I'll look 17, and we'll go back to normal in about 2 to 3 weeks, all right? It's like a doctor's visit. Look, just, get some rest. Take this, and if you don't feel good in 2 or 3 weeks, come back to see me. But we should be good to go in about 2 to 3 weeks. We can get back to your normal routine. That's how we are reacting to my no beard as of right now. Believe me, people, my face is cold. When I go outside, I don't want anybody to look at me. It's been a rough couple of days, but hey, the reason why we did it, and you're wondering why'd you shave the beard? And if you didn't check out the stream, we reached 75 subscribers on YouTube. We're at 76 right now. I want to thank everybody that subscribed to the YouTube channel for supporting the podcast for as long as we've been going. And for us to reach a milestone like that, and to do it with like subscribers in the last couple of weeks, probably like 14, 15 of those coming in the last 2 weeks, that's amazing. And now we're officially on the road to 100 subscribers. We're 25 away, or 24 as of right now. So if you're not subscribed already and you're listening to this, watching this, please subscribe, mention to your friends, because 100 subscribers would mean a lot to me. We got a lot in store for that. Please do so. But thank you so much already for 75 subscribers. Thank you for joining the streams, and we had a lot of fun, watching the first 3 rounds of the draft. So thank you again. I did it for a bet. If we got to 75, I'd shave the beard. So that's the reason why. But anyways, so let's get to the reason why we're here today. Post-draft, what are we looking at? Well, I'm here to answer your questions. And you're like, Bubba, who won the draft? Now, I'm going to be a little hesitant to just yell out the answer. What we're going to do is we're going to go through teams and go through all the picks. So this is going to be a long stretch of videos that is going to continue for the next couple of weeks. We're going through all the teams in the draft. We're going to go through every pick, what I think of them, what I've seen in film. Look, I was going to get through the whole NFC East today. That ain't going to happen because I spent about 4 to 5 hours on just the Eagles and the Redskins alone, who we're starting off with. The next video, we're going to focus on the Giants and the Cowboys. And then from that point on, we're just going to go 2 and 2. So I don't want to make them hour-long videos, and I'm probably just milking it right now for time. But I don't want this to be an hour-long film session or scout type of episode. I'm just going to give you my opinions on each of these guys and overall grade the teams on how they did in the draft. So doing 2 teams, it'll give us a 20 to 30 minute window for the whole episode, and then from there we'll just continue this. We're going to do this for the next couple of weeks, and at the very end we'll do who's the best out of the draft, give us some time to really focus in and really look into every team and give us a different perspective every time, and we can give a general a consistent answer on who is the best team that drafted in this year's draft. And then at the end, we'll also go more in depth into the Cowboys and their offseason moves, but also do another Cowboys round of the week because it has been a couple of weeks. So like I said, we're going to start off with the Eagles and the Redskins. We're going to start off with the Redskins first. And we'll go through the rest of the NFC East probably tomorrow or the next day. It's going to be a weird, starting point, but once we get in the groove in it, we're definitely going to be on our way. And so keep looking at like YouTube, keep looking at Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We finally got back on a Spotify and Apple Podcast. Anchor finally figured out that issue. So, consistent uploads and consistent episodes going to be uploaded every single day or every other day for the next few weeks at least. But we're going to crank them out. And keep in mind, the YouTube channel is going to keep making really unique videos too that you haven't seen on the channel before. Redskins, all right? First thing I looked into is what they need. The whole reason why they're drafting. Their needs: offensive lineman, wide receiver, cornerback, linebacker, tight end, edge, and safety. I'd say the most important ones to look at in that whole spec of positions is definitely going to be offensive lineman, so you can protect Dwayne Haskins or Alex Smith. I think Dwayne Haskins is going to be their guy this year. They're really gonna invest into him, and I really think they should. His rookie season was lackluster for the type of talent that he is. I think he's the best quarterback to come out of Ohio State ever. So the talent wasn't shown on the field, but it was definitely a learning curve for Dwayne Haskins. That's going to take some time. A bad organization that was being ran last year definitely improved this year with Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, a better coaching staff, and a better atmosphere in Washington. So I think great things are going to happen for Dwayne Haskins, but you have to protect him, most importantly. And I don't feel like they have a Pro Bowler or big name on that offensive line, so they really need to look into that early in the draft. Wide receiver as well, you got to give Dwayne Haskins weapons. Right now, Terry McLaurin is looking like a stud, and he's definitely going to play like it in his sophomore year. He was what John Doxson was supposed to be. I said that on the stream, but Terry McLaurin lived up to the expectations and exceeded that. So Terry's looking really good. I love him, and he's going to have a really good second year. But you need help around him too. You got rid of Jordan Reed, who was just injury prone, so now you don't have a tight end as well. So the weapons of wide receiver and tight end are definitely necessary for the Washington Redskins. I think cornerback, safety, anything in the secondary that you can improve is a high key problem for the Washington Redskins. Look, they got Kendall Fuller in free agency. That's a big move. But they got rid of Josh Norman, who's still a free agent. They got rid of Dunbar, who really wasn't that good, but was their second best option other than Norman. So other than Kendall Fuller, you got Landon Collins at strong safety, and really nothing else in that secondary that you can really say, wow, they're really taken care of in that position. Fabian Moreau and Sean Davis, you need improvements on that. And overall, cornerback, safety, secondary has been a problem for the Washington Redskins, especially in the NFC East where it's stacked with wide receivers and weapons all around. You're talking about the Cowboys, you're talking about the Eagles that are focusing in on weapons for the quarterback to make them feel at home, to make offenses feel high octane and high performance every single time in the NFC East. You need to improve that cornerback and secondary position to really make that happen, to kind of balance it out. You're also talking about linebacker. They are pretty old at linebacker. Their veteran Thomas Davis, if you know him from the Carolina Panthers, he's been in the league for 100 years. He's not going to last forever, but he is a very good presence for the Washington Redskins. You also have Reuben Foster, who was known for being a 49er, but did have some issues off the field. Now he signed with the Washington Redskins. Let's see if he can get a fresh start. And now that the charges of assault have been taken away, see if he can get a fresh start and go back to his, high potential ways in San Francisco. But yeah, Thomas Davis, Reuben Foster, and then you have an amazing defensive front that only gets better with their first pick. So that really isn't a concern. Other than that, you have the edge rusher, which we'll get into, and tight end, because they got rid of Jordan Reed. They need. Well, when Jordan Reed was healthy, he was one of the best tight ends in the league. But the word is if he was healthy. And he was never healthy. Concussions. Did I mention concussions? The dude just could not stay healthy. So it's huge for them to get someone in either free agency or in the draft, because Jeremy Sprinkle ain't going to cut it for you. Let's get into the picks. What are we in? 10 minutes in. Shit. Okay. Round one, they got the best athlete in the draft. Can't knock them on this. With the second overall pick, they went defensive end, edge rusher, Chase Young at Ohio State. You're getting the best athlete in the draft. You got the best athlete on the board. Bengals needed a quarterback. You need an edge rusher. You have your quarterback already. And yeah, there's not much you can say on Chase Young. Can we all agree on this? Like wherever you're listening, or wherever you're watching, whoever is watching and listening, can we all agree that Chase Young is one of the best prospects that we've ever seen out of college? Better than the Bosa brothers, in my opinion. And I have not heard one knock on him. I do have one knock on him, though. Ultimately, the only concern that I have with Chase Young is playing against lesser competition and his performance in the playoff game against Clemson. When you look at the big games in the Big Ten that Chase Young played in, he did have like a 2-game suspension last year because of violations of the NCAA rules. I hate those rules, but whatever. He still played majority of the season. And he did play against, Michigan State. He played against Michigan. He played against Penn State. The big name schools that you got to go against in order to win the Big Ten and put yourself in a spot in the playoff. He was amazing. He played up to the competition when it was necessary to play up against a rival or a big name in the Big Ten. Now look at his stats against Rutgers, Nebraska, Indiana. Man had 2 solo tackles, maybe 1 sack. Really unimpressive for a guy of that talent playing against lesser talent, against lesser competition. There's no way that anybody at Indiana or Rutgers can compete against Chase Young on a one-on-one level, let alone as a collective group. There's no way your left tackle is going to be better than Chase Young. If he's at Indiana, it's at the D1 school, but by no means are they a big football program. How come he's not playing at such a high level against those teams? You can say, oh, well, it's a mental thing. You don't have to try that hard. I get that. He's not playing many snaps because they're blowing those teams out. I get that. Well, how about we look at the Clemson game, what he really needed to step up. I remember watching that game and thinking, look, I'm so ready to watch Chase Young against Trevor Lawrence. I'm ready for sunshine and Chase Young. I'm ready for it. And then as the game progressed, I'm saying, where's Chase Young? Where is he? He's not showing up. And in a big game like that, you need to step up and not carry your team. However, you need to influence that team to be better. And I don't feel that Chase Young did that. I felt like their corners were the best part of their team, and yet they really were unimpressive in that second half. By no means did they play at an elite level in that second half. Really underwhelming, in my opinion. So when we look at him in Washington, in those NFC East games, yes, he'll probably perform at a high level, and it'll be very hard for them to contain him. Yet what about against let's say a really bad NFC team? Actually, I'm having an issue here. The Bears. My NFC is pretty good, though. Let's say against Carolina, something like that. You have to look at his schedule. There's going to be some bad teams that he has to go against, but let's see how he performs against that. Overall, though, you love the fit. That's the best thing about this. Like I mentioned earlier, their defensive front is already an all-star group. Jim Tom Sula did a phenomenal job last year of making that front line a menace and a scary one. You have first-round picks across the board. You got Daron Payne. You got Jonathan Allen. You got Chase Young now. And you got Ryan Kerrigan along with Montez Sweat. Dude, if I'm an offense, I'm saying we can't hold everybody. Someone's going to fall. Someone's going to ruin it for all of us. Because there's no way you can contain all of those guys. Jonathan Allen had an amazing year last year. Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, big boys, and they're only going to get better. Ryan Kerrigan, man's a beast. He's been a beast in Washington. Man's hard to contain. But now you got Chase Young, who's probably the best out of all those guys. How are you going to contain that? How are you going to hold all of those players together and give your quarterback time to throw? You're just not. And try running the ball. If you don't have a big back, that's going to be hard to do. Very hard to do. But dude, that's scary. And that's why I love the fit so much, is that edge rusher was not necessarily the first necessity for the Washington Redskins, but it definitely is the best fit so far. And looking at this draft, I mean, they hit the home run with this one, even though this doesn't solve all of their issues. I like it. I like it a lot. I love Chase Young. I think he's going to be better than the Bosa brothers. So him going to Washington with Jack Del Rio, with Sam Mills as his defensive line coach, experienced guys that make the most out of defensive fronts, is going to be fun to watch in Washington. Round 3, since they didn't have a round 2 pick, is running back / wide receiver Antonio Gibson out of Memphis. This is a very interesting pick, guys, because he was better known for his wide receiver skill set at Memphis, but is built like a running back. It's phenomenal to watch his film because you see him line up in the slot and outside a lot. And you only see a glimpse of him as a running back, as a true running back. So for them to say that he's actually a running back, I don't think that's correct. But the man has a skill set of combined both running back and wide receiver. It's weird because he's out of Memphis, so it reminds me a lot of Tony Pollard, who is in the NFC East as well. And it's very much like what the Cowboys are going to do with Tony Pollard this year, is they use him as a running back, but you might see him in the slot a lot. You might see him outside lined up on the line of scrimmage rather than in the backfield. He shows tremendous speed and great hands. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, he's built like a running back, so he can get in the backfield and get you a solid 6 or 7 yards. And the speed, if he breaks a tackle, he's gone. But he also has phenomenal hands that you can rely on as a 2 running back set that you start to see a lot more in the NFL. I love the pick too, because yes, you do have a necessity for wide receiver, but there's no real solidified answer at running back. Let's talk about what they have. Adrian Peterson, who's getting up there in age. We don't know what Adrian Peterson can do anymore. He's still got some gas left in the tank. We all know that, but how far can it go? We're not getting 1,000-yard rushing seasons out of Adrian Peterson. We're not going to get an elite level back out of Washington if they go with Adrian Peterson. I respect the hell out of Adrian Peterson, but there is a future that needs to be told in Washington at that position. You also talk about Darius Guice, who they drafted a few years ago. Injury after injury that has kept them out season after season. 2 season-ending injuries back-to-back. How can you be confident in that? You can't be. So you need to really focus in on, like, look, we need to answer both positions right now. How can we fill that gap? How can we fill someone that's outside or in the slot that we can throw to, but just in case, like a safety net of AP retiring or Darius Guice getting injured once again, we got our guy, Antonio Gibson. And we can use him like Tony Pollard. If the Cowboys would have said, look, Zeke, we're just not going to pay you money, I would have been completely fine with Tony Pollard. Because I don't feel like in the NFL you need to have that outstanding running back that you need to pay $90 million for. I'm glad Zeke's with the Cowboys. And I'm glad Zeke got his money. Overall, though, look at the teams that have made the Super Bowl year after year. They're not getting these number 1 backs in the league. You know, you talk about last year's Super Bowl matchup. Raheem Mostert and Damian Williams. Damian Williams is probably not even going to be the starter next year. And Raheem Mostert, dude's been cut by 6 teams. You don't need a $90 million running back. What you need is a guy like Antonio Gibson who can play both positions. Love Christian McCaffrey. Love Alvin Kamara. This is what the Washington Redskins are trying to do here. They're trying to get that 2 skill set running back / wide receiver. You can put him in the flex type of position. You can put him anywhere on the field, and he will be productive. It solves your issue with the running backs as a safety net. Also gives you another weapon for Dwayne Haskins. What else did I write for him? I also wrote tough running back class, since round 2 really swooped up a lot of my favorites. And this was a guy that really went unsaid. But watching his film, I'm definitely impressed by Gibson for sure. Round 4, it was a tackle out of LSU, Sadiq Charles. And that offensive line in Baton Rouge, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, that offensive line was really good. What I saw out of Charles was very light on his feet, does not look over 320, which he is. I mean, a perfect type of build for a offensive tackle. I'm not going to lie, kind of reminded me of Tyron Smith a little bit. Just the way that he kind of, positioned himself and the way that he plays. Not saying that he's going to be Tyron Smith, but he kind of has attributes that remind me of him. Great with his hands, and when on point, the dude makes you feel him. I mean, he puts himself on the map if he's going on you. Like, he will make himself known if he really gets the rhythm going. Now, the only thing about that, though, is that sometimes he starts to lag. I'm not seeing 100% out of him. He kind of doesn't finish the play. And I'm going to say that a lot throughout this entire series, if you want to call it that, of guys not finishing, guys not, going balls to the wall every single play. There are some guys that if I see that in them, even though they're not the best prospect, I believe in them even more, because I love a guy that, if the play is on the other side of the field, at least if you make the effort to run over there, I'm all for that. I love that. I just don't see that enough in the NFL, and you start to see that a little bit more in college. And I feel that Charles is one of the guys that, you just wish that you gave a little bit more. He definitely has more potential to him. And for a fourth rounder, that ain't bad at all. Getting a guy out of LSU in the fourth round, I'm all for that. For a build like him, he definitely has potential there. And really, when you need more depth and more insurance on that offensive line, give a guy like this a year or two to develop. And when Dwayne Haskins is feeling comfortable, he's now your franchise guy. You've got a lot more weapons, either in free agency or in the draft for Dwayne Haskins. You start to see a lot more of the organized type of play that Ron Rivera likes to do in his coaching. And it'll only get better from here for the Washington Redskins. So they have some time to develop. They're not going to be the favorites this year in the NFC East by no means, because I think every other team in this division is going to be better than them. However, I don't say that they're going to be terrible. I think they're in rebuild. It's their first year with Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. It's not going to be a 13-3 season by no means. Yet you're making the right moves, and I think a guy in the fourth round like Sadiq Charles is a good move forward. Also in round 4, they also get another weapon for Dwayne Haskins at that offense. Wide receiver Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty. 6'4", 220. Ladies and gentlemen, can I just say that again? 6'4", 220. One more time for the people in the back. 6'4", 220. This man is built to be a physical wide receiver. He's not the speedy guy that you're going to see a lot in these drafts. A phenomenal wide receiver draft class this year that was filled with variety, versatility, agility. The list goes on of the attributes that all of these wide receivers had. And even if you went down to the 4th or 5th round, which we're going to get into with the Eagles, I saw tremendous talent that can be a menace on an offense. And if it's the right fit, they're going to be better than the first or second option, in my opinion. There's a lot of receivers this year where they're going to be number 2 and number 3, and I'm like, they're going to play better than the number 1 guy. I don't think this is going to be golden, but I'm just saying, like, overall, this wide receiver class is amazing. But 6'4", 220, he uses his size to his advantage. And what I mean by that, if you have press coverage on you, and you're talking about a 6'4", 220 wide receiver on, let's say, a 6'1", 200-pound cornerback, who do you think is going to win that? Who do you think is going to win that? I'm saying that the 6'4", 220 guy is just going to go like that, and he's just going to make a post route or a go route. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't play against the best competition. I get that. And he had to play against smaller guys. But when you're talking about 6'4", 220, I'm taking that chance. And in the 4th round, I'm taking that chance. And forgot to mention, this man has great feet off the snap. And his physicality, once again, I mean, the dude can catch those 50-50 balls like nothing. I love this guy a lot for the Washington Redskins because you want that variety in your offense. You want the speedy guy, you want the physical guy, you want the guy that can do all things. This is going to be your tough physical guy. This is going to be your, let's just throw it in the end zone and see what happens. Because he's going to get the lesser cornerback, the lesser talented quarterback. You're going to get the second, third option here. and just throw a fade and see what happens. Because this dude's 6'4", 220. If he can win the hand battle, most likely you're going to win that play and get a touchdown or a big gain. He's not the fastest guy, and he needs to improve his route tree. Didn't have to do much at Liberty because he just had to win one route, and that's all you need to do. But improve that route tree. Continue to work on the feet and only improve more in that physicality. I don't see him getting any faster, but I don't think this is going to be his attribute. I don't think this is going to be his specialty on the Washington Redskins. So now with Terry McLaurin, who can do everything, including speed, now you have your physical guy, which is Antonio Gandy Golden. The rest of the wide receivers, along with Antonio Gibson, who's listed as wide receiver here, Steven Sims Jr. and Kelvin Harmon, I'd start to see a lot more of Terry McLaurin and Gandy Golden, along with Gibson, get a lot more attention there than the other guys. At round 5, center Keith Ishmael from San Diego State. I wasn't a huge fan of this pick. Now at round 5, you're not going to pick from the best of the best. What I saw in film was he gets the sense, I get the sense that he gets overpowered a lot. Either he'll just kind of hold that block just enough, and you start to see him struggle a little bit more as time progresses, or he just gets absolutely backed up and pushed around by defenders. And when you're talking about San Diego State, you're not playing against the best competition by no means, and no disrespect to those guys, but if you're looking to improve that offensive line, especially at center, not the guy I would look at. And I feel like there's not much to it. The biggest thing that I saw out of him that was a positive was his versatility at moving from center to guard. He played both positions very well in San Diego State, especially with injuries at the right guard. So you can move him around, see if you need a depth guy, that's going to be your guy. But do I like the pick? Not a lot. Round 5 as well, linebacker Khalid Hudson out of Michigan. All I can say, man, is this guy is interesting to watch. Interesting is lack of a better term. Because when you see him pre-snap, man's all over the place. It looks like he's just scattering to find something to do, but he knows exactly what he's doing. And keep that in mind, if he knows exactly what he's doing. I kind of wrote that he's like a mosquito that you can't get rid of. Like, he's always there. He's always like, if you're a quarterback and you're just looking around and you see this guy just moving, I mean just moving all around the defensive line, and you're saying he's over here now, he's over there, and then you can move him around in all different places around the field, you're going to be concerned about that because you don't know where this guy's going to go. Is he going to rush me? Is he going to stay in coverage? Is he going to go one-on-one because he has a smaller size to him that he can stay up with a corner or with a wide receiver? This man is all over the place, but in a very good way. He'll confuse offenses for sure. He kind of looks like a free safety. And the reason I say that is he's 5'11 and 224. He's built like a corner / safety. He looks like a free safety on the field. Because if he comes up right to where the linebackers are, you're going to say, oh, well, I mean, he's going to probably play in coverage. And then he just rushes you. And you're like, well, that speed is unlike anybody that I've seen that is supposed to be a linebacker. That's a pro and a con, is that you want your linebackers to be big. And you're talking about guys that are in this draft that are 6'4", 250. That's what you would like in a linebacker, and you can go even bigger with that, like a 6'4", 6'5", 260, 270, and you'll be like, wow, that's a prototype linebacker. Then you're talking about a 5'11", 224 guy, and you're like, well, that's our linebacker. But, I mean, the thing about this is, okay, that's another guy from the Eagles, but I mean, just watching this film, and I loved watching him. I'm not saying he's going to be a phenomenal linebacker, but it's just fun to watch him play. To not overcompensate, but to compensate for the lack of size, he definitely makes it up in his play, in his leadership, and people in Michigan love him. Harbaugh is a big fan of him. He says he's the leader of the defense. And the only thing on him is that if he was just a few inches taller, a little bit bulkier, that this guy would be a great prospect in the NFL. And what I like about it too is that with the smaller size, you give him more experience. So this is going to be a starter by no means. And really, they actually have him as a free safety under the depth chart at the fourth spot. So I don't even see him being a linebacker for the Washington Redskins. Now, they need depth at linebacker, so this doesn't solve the issue at linebacker. Like I said, you can move him around the field and you can put him anywhere. Pair him up with Thomas Davis. See what you can do with him and see if he can stay at linebacker. Because other than that, then you're looking at him being with Landell Collins, Sean Davis, maybe learn from Kendall Fuller a little bit. We'll see what happens, but he's an interesting player to look at. And if he starts to get some rhythm going and makes the team, I'm definitely going to watch out for him. If they mention his name, I'm going to be like, yeah, that's a guy that I want to watch. I'm definitely interested in him. In round 5, look, it doesn't solve the issue of the linebacker position, so that's my only knock on this pick. I like the player, though. In round 7, as we finish up the Washington Redskins, 30 minutes in, Jesus Christ, I said it was going to be short. Round 7, safety Cameron Curl out of Arkansas. Used to play corner earlier in his time at Arkansas. And helps a lot in coverage. If you look at his film throughout the 2018-2019 season, he does play one-on-one cornerback position a lot for the Razorbacks. He's lengthy, tough, 6'2", 200 pounds. The best feature about him is he's hard hitting. And I like that in a safety, although you do want more of the overall position to fill in that gap of Sean Davis or Landell Collins. When you looked at his film against Alabama, the dude got smoked and he looked lost. I get it. You're playing against the best team or one of the best teams in the country. It's not something that you're used to if you're Cameron Curl out of Arkansas. You're playing the SEC, so you got to deal with a lot of speedy receivers, and a lot of them do come out of Alabama. But when you look lost out there and you don't know what you're doing, that's concerning to me. And when you have a need for the Redskins at that position, do you have a lot of time to develop? I know you're in a rebuilding stage, so in a few years, maybe. But I don't know. This is going to take a lot of time for Curl to develop as a featured safety for the Washington Redskins. And really, they have him 4th on the depth chart. It'll be hard for him. I don't even know if this guy can make the team, in my opinion. I like his size, and you want a guy that's over 6 foot and is bulkier at that position. I do want a guy that can stay composed against a higher opponent. And when you see his film against Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, it does not look good whatsoever. So this is going to take some time to really look into Curl and say, can we invest in this guy a lot? I don't know if the Redskins are going to invest on this guy as their safety. Also in round 7, the last pick in the draft for the Washington Redskins, James Smith-Williams out of NC State, defensive end. Definitely built like a defensive end, 6'4", 265. A very intelligent guy. He now has a job at IBM. He had 2 internships with IBM before he graduated. Very smart, great student athlete. And it's starting to look like he's developing more of that vision and more of the IQ, the football IQ during his senior season. But at times, I see that he has a lack of vision, and his strength, even though he's built like a defensive end, he doesn't know how to use it yet. In his final year with NC State, he had 1 sack as a defensive end. If I'm a quarterback looking at that man, I'm like, that man's gonna kill me. And somehow throughout that game, he doesn't get a sack. He barely gets a pressure. There's a lot of development that needs to happen. And there was a lot of development in the defensive end, draft prospects, where they said, look, if you just give them a little bit more time, they're a prototype defensive end. You want this type of defensive end. You just need to learn more if you're that guy. When you have Chase Young, when you have Ryan Kerrigan, and a great defensive front, is this really worth it at that position? Now, at right defensive end, it's only Chase Young and James Smith-Williams. So not a lot of depth. Overall, if I'm looking to take out a roster spot and I need to get rid of someone to put someone back in, I'm taking out Smith-Williams. I don't think this guy is going to make it unless he's a special teamer. I hope that he can use that strength and that IQ a lot better once he gets into the league and gets that learning curve. It's just not heading in the right direction. I wasn't impressed enough in film. Honorable mentions for the Washington Redskins, by the way, because undrafted free agents, they didn't answer the tight end position whatsoever in this draft. And it was lackluster, to be fair. I mean, only like the first 3 or 4 a while were like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty good. We'll see what happens with them. Other than that, not much to work with. And one of those guys was Thaddeus Moss out of LSU, Randy Moss's son. Look, he is a freak athlete. He comes from a great family. You know that if it's a Moss, I'm willing to take the risk on it. The only reason why he went undrafted is because of the foot injury that occurred prior to the draft or prior to the combine, and he needed surgery on it. He didn't let everybody know in time, so everyone was like, oh, can we trust this guy? He kind of didn't tell us about the foot injury in time, and he wasn't at the combine. He had to get foot surgery. Not that much experience at that position, so I think a lot of teams are focused on that as well. I'm saying if you were the Washington Redskins, this is worth the undrafted free agent pick, if you want to say that. I guarantee you a lot of teams looked into Thaddeus Moss and said, look, maybe we give him a chance. Because once that foot injury heals, you get a great athlete that if he builds a great relationship with that quarterback, it's going to do wonders for that passing game. Look at his relationship with Joe Burrow. You saw the unexperienced tight end, and yet he was dominating toward the later part of the season, and he looked phenomenal in that championship game against Clemson. I mean, the guy just took over that relationship they had, the bond. It showed on the field. So if you can build that with Thaddeus Moss in Washington, I think this is a great acquisition for the Redskins. Another mention, quarterback Steven Montez. He came from El Paso. Love the guy. He did good, not great at Colorado, but he still played D1. It's great to see an El Pasoan like Aaron Jones really prosper in the NFL. He gets his chance. Look, he's gonna be a backup most likely for most of his career. Maybe he gets a chance. He learns under Ron Rivera. And let's say Dwayne Haskins go down. They don't have Alex Smith anymore. Steven Montez, you're up. I'd like to see it just once. Montez, congratulations, man. And I saw a tweet on Twitter that mentioned that, like, hey, we got to give Steven Montez the same respect and the same, like, cheerful mentality and the same energy that we give Aaron Jones. Like, these guys come out of El Paso, which is rare. There's not a lot of El Pasoans coming out and taking over the league. Aaron Jones has been the best to do it. You know, Will Hernandez has done it as well. Let's give Steven Montez props for even making it to this point, and to be acquired by an NFL team is a dream of his, most likely. And for him to make it that far, credit to him, man. He deserves it. Great for Steven Montez. Give him a shout out on Twitter. I definitely will as well. So overall, when we're looking at those draft picks, give me your guys' thoughts in the comments below, or if you're listening to this, tell me on Twitter. I give the Redskins a B-. I love the Chase Young pick. Love it so much. In their offensive side with Gibson and Gandy Golden, you give weapons to Dwayne Haskins. I like those. Sadiq Charles could be something in a few years, but it was the Keith Ishmael pick, the Khaleke Hudson pick in a sense because it doesn't really fill the linebacker position at all. And when you look at their whole draft, they didn't answer any questions at that position. Not a huge fan of Curl, not a huge fan of Smith, Williams, and just the honorable mentions. I like those better than like the round 5, round 7 picks, in my opinion. So, yes, when it hits very well because they're solid fits for the Washington Redskins. But when it didn't, I don't see it going anywhere for the Washington Redskins. So I think in the middle, B- is a fair perspective on the Redskins. We move on to the Eagles. And I don't want to rush it through, so sorry if it's a longer video or longer podcast, but I hope you're enjoying this so far. The Eagles. Concerns, needs, cornerback, inside offensive line, linebacker, edge, safety, wide receiver, tackle, running back. I really don't agree with running back, so we'll just remove that, in my opinion. Look, they have Jordan Howard, right? No, Miles Sanders. My apologies. But Miles Sanders, definitely good enough to be the first back. I'd say depth, but it's not really a necessity. I definitely think corner, much like the Redskins, the cornerbacks secondary for both of these teams have been horrible over the last couple of years. I mean, with all the names and all the talk about Eagles secondary guys, let's say like Jalen Mills, Avonte Maddox, and even like Ronnie McLeod, I'm not impressed by any of those guys. Those guys get smoked every other week. So you need a big time corner. And they did that in free agency with Darius Slay. You also need to bring some more depth and more reliability at that position. So going high wouldn't be an issue whatsoever with a really solid cornerback class. Linebacker as well, which is really the only other knock that I have on their defensive side, because their front's really good as well. Could use some depth and more versatility, but I don't think it's a huge concern. And then on offense, of course, wide receiver, which we'll get into, because the first round pick was wide receiver out of TCU, Jalen Reagor. And first time watching film, impressed. It was TCU. The last time I saw it was John Doxson. I was like, oh, not really good, rich history at a TCU. And reading all like I wouldn't say excuses, but the reasons why Jalen wasn't playing at such a high level at TCU was the inconsistent quarterback play. And looking more into it, yes, TCU just can't figure out the quarterback position, even though they somehow get the best quarterback in Texas every single year. Doesn't make sense to me, but I digress. Jalen Reagor is phenomenal. And also another knock is it's interesting that the Eagles really passed on a lot of other great guys. Like I said, stacked wide receiver class. They passed on Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, Justin Jefferson out of Clemson, but absolutely nothing wrong with Jalen Reagor. And Doug Peterson's gonna have a field day with this guy, because you can put him anywhere on the field. Misdirection, in the slot, outside. The dude can do everything, because he's just an amazing freak athlete. Phenomenal speed, agility. I mean, in every aspect of what you want in a receiver, he's it. He is 5'11", but when you see him on the field, he does not look 5'11", in my opinion. He looks bigger and confident in what he can do. And I think it's all in the agility. When he can set up screens, which what Doug Peterson likes to do, and a lot of misdirection as well, which you start to see a lot more in the NFL. Jalen Reagor is the type of guy that you want to bring in and immediately put him to work on those misdirections, in those motion plays, and give the corners, give the secondary a fucking day to like scout him out, to really guess on what he's going to do, because you never know with this guy. And even though he's 5'11", I don't think that's going to be an issue for him. Now, the only thing about it is the one knock, or the few knocks that we have on Reagor, is drops, and that has been an issue for the Eagles for a very long time. They just can't catch the ball. Nelson Agholor, not going to name any names, Nelson Agholor. And injuries. Injuries are huge. When you talk about what they have right now, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, both of these guys have been banged up for years. Deshaun Jackson could not be on the field last year. So getting a young guy who doesn't have a big history with injuries, I would say the drops problem is minor. I've seen enough film to say that that's not a huge concern. This is one of those guys, Jalen Reagor is going to be one of those guys, to me, that is going to get better production and better numbers than, let's say, Alshon Jeffrey, or who they just acquired in the last few days, Marquise Goodwin, out of the 49ers. I would say Jalen Reagor is going to be the second or third option for Carson Wentz, but in numbers reasons, he's going to be number one. I like this guy a lot. He's not going to get all the attention in the world. He's going to probably get the second or third best corner on a defense, but he can beat that second or third corner unless he's full-on press coverage, and he's a great press coverage corner. I think that's the only thing that can stop Jalen from being an elite wide receiver in the NFL. And a great fit for the Eagles because they need it. So great pick. Love the pick. Round 2. This is where it goes to shit for me on the Eagles, and I could not believe what they did. If you're an Eagles fan or you're a fan of this pick, please let me know. I want to know your opinion. Anybody who's watching or listening to this, give me your opinion. Because I think round 2 for Jalen Hurts, quarterback out of Oklahoma, is one of the worst picks in the draft. There's no bias here. There's no hatred toward the Eagles. A lot of people are going to come in here and say, oh, it's because you're a Cowboys fan. You're going to hate everything the Eagles do. No. Shut the fuck up. Like, if you watched or listened to any of these podcasts, I am not biased to anybody. I like talking about the Cowboys more because I just know so much about the Cowboys. And they're my favorite team. A lot of the people that listen to this are Cowboys fans, or they're intrigued by the Cowboys. And I have a fair assessment and a critical assessment of the Cowboys. Never do I go on here and say, all the Eagles are trash, and never give you a reason why. I never say the Eagles are a shit team, or I'm just going to bash on everything they do. When they won the Super Bowl, I was like, they are a great team. They deserve that championship. And it's actually nice to see the Eagles win it because they were the best overall team that season. I'll give them props when props are due. So don't say it's biased here. I'm saying this is a horrible pick. You can go with Jalen Hurts. I'm completely fine with that. Look, I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be a number 1 quarterback or franchise guy in anywhere in the NFL. I'd say his college path has led me to believe that I'm just not all in on Jalen Hurts. And I kind of mentioned this to the stream, is that you're supposed, like Alabama in general, Alabama's going to give you the best receivers in the country. That's it. Like, that's plain and simple. They're going to give you the best wide receivers. They're going to give you a great offensive line that's filled with just jacked guys, prototype offensive linemen that are built to play at Alabama. They're going to give you a running back like Derrick Henry, Najee Harris. They're going to give you every type of running back possible, and they're just going to come and go, but it always is consistent. And you have a defense that is going to give you the ball more times, more possessions every game. And as a quarterback, it doesn't matter who you are. You are given every weapon possible. How are you not going to succeed? And when you look at the history, the rich history of Alabama quarterbacks, how about we just focus on A.J. McCarron? How about we focus on guys that you have no clue where they are now, and whether or not they're playing in the NFL, you have to worry about that. Then you take in consideration that you got benched in the national championship for Tua and lost your job. Tua came in and smoked that Georgia defense. Georgia had no film. They had no recollection of Tua. I get that. But then you come into the next season where people have film on Tua, and yet you still lose the job. And now you got to transfer. Okay, you transfer to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to give you wide receivers like CeeDee Lamb. They're going to give you receivers that are the best in probably the conference. They're going to give you phenomenal running backs. And their focus is offense. Lincoln Riley, to be specific, is a quarterback coach. He's going to make you succeed no matter what. He makes everybody look good. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts isn't talented. By no means am I saying that. And then you play in the Big 12 that has no defense. I mean, you literally will score 60 on everyone in the Big 12 because you're Oklahoma and everybody else is not Oklahoma. Reports saying that Jalen Hurts is very selfish, according to teammates in the locker room at Oklahoma, because he would show all those videos after the game, like working hard, not celebrating with the team. Look, I'm not saying that that's 100% true. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is a very selfish person and he's not a team player. But when we got reports saying that Oklahoma teammates did not like him, I'm going to take that in consideration. Because all he was focused on was himself. And when it came to playing with the big boys in the playoff, oh, boy got smoked. There are so many what-ifs of Jalen Hurts. Is it a great story if he comes in the league and takes over? Yes. That would be amazing. Get benched in the national championship game and come back, win a Super Bowl. I'm all for that. That would be one of the greatest stories in sports history. I'm saying it's not going to happen. I'm saying in round 2, you don't take this guy. I think he was a 4th or 5th rounder. Quarterbacks past Joe Burrow and maybe Tua, I was like, all right, I'm good. That was not a quarterback draft whatsoever. Jordan Love in the 1st round, save it for another podcast. Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round? 2nd round? Nah. No. If the Eagles would have flipped this up and said, the 4th round, the Eagles take Jalen Hurts, I would have been like, okay. I mean, this is obviously the backup to Carson Wentz because of his injuries. And then the reports that have come out and said Doug Peterson wants to play a 2-quarterback set where ultimately they want to use Jalen Hurts as a Taysom Hill. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call the Taysom Hill effect. Is now every team from now on, hashtag Taysom Hill effect. Say it in the comments below. Say it on Twitter. Hashtag Taysom Hill effect. Because now everybody wants a player like Taysom Hill. Where they can put him at quarterback. They can put him as a blocker. They can put him as a wide receiver. He can do wildcat. He can do everything. He's an all-in-one Swiss Army knife. That's what makes Taysom Hill, is that there's one Taysom Hill. You can't just create that. You can't say, we're going to plug this guy into that, and we're going to call him Taysom Hill. That's not going to happen. Let's just throw that to the side for right now. If you want to do that with Jalen Hurts, go right ahead. When you need corners, when you need safeties, when you need probably more wide receivers, maybe fill in the offensive line a little bit more. And really, your biggest concern, or one of your biggest concerns, is linebacker. And in the 2nd round, you could have gotten guys. You could probably moved up to the 1st round and got Patrick Queen. You could have stayed in the 2nd round, got Zach Bond. You could have gotten some great talent at linebacker that was left early on in the draft. But you decided to go with round 2 Jalen Hurts and make my boy EDP 445 contemplate death. How dare you? How dare you disrespect my boy like that? I am just shocked that round 2 you go Jalen Hurts. Round 3, I would have still been a little upset. Round 4 would have been like okay with it. Round 5, of course. And Jalen Hurts is worth a shot at round 5. You got a backup quarterback because Nate Sudfeld is not going to be your guy. And if you want to use him in Taysom Hill, go right ahead. Just Jalen Hurts at round 2 does not make sense to me. Absolutely not. Round 2 was spectacular, by the way. A lot of teams picked even better in the 2nd round than they did in the 1st round, in my opinion. There's a lot of great picks in the 2nd round. This was not one of them. Round 3, linebacker. Oh, Bubba, they went linebacker round 3. Cool. Davion Taylor out of Colorado. Well, Bubba, he's got ridiculous speed. He ran track in high school and college. Okay? His pursuit of the ball is amazing. And has a lot of room to grow. He has a lot of potential. I'm pretending to be you, but I'm also talking about me because this is what I saw in film. This could be a linebacker in 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, that could really be a number 1 linebacker. I agree. He's only played 2 games of football in high school. He doesn't have a lot of experience at the position. Pro and con. A lot of potential. Pro. Con. He's only played 2 games in high school. Pro. He doesn't play like it, though. It doesn't look like he's played 2 games. At times it does, but overall, when I'm watching film, I'm not going to say that guy's only played for a day. Con. He's not a starter for the Eagles. So you don't solve the issue of linebacker in round 3 with this guy, because this guy right now is second on the depth chart in strong linebacker, where there's only 2 linebackers in that position. So you need a depth as well. But Alex Singleton would probably want to do better than that. Jatavis Brown, Nathan Gary, probably want to do better than that. And at round 3, still some possibilities at some starting linebackers. Definitely there were starting linebackers in round 2. Look, Davion Taylor is a freak. This dude looks fun. They're going to have a lot of fun with this guy. And yes, in 4 or 5 years, this dude can develop into something once he finally learns the position of linebacker and finally knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, but he got to know what to do, and he doesn't know that yet. Once he gets that down, he's probably going to be one of my favorite players in the NFL. I'm going to look back and say, that guy caught my attention. He's an eye catcher for sure. When you still haven't solved the issue of linebacker, you still haven't solved the issue of cornerback or any secondary help in 3 rounds of the draft. By the way, you still picked Jalen Hurts round 2. Round 4, Kayvon Wallace, safety out of Clemson. If you're going to blitz him every single time, if you're bringing a safety blitz, a corner blitz, this dude is your guy. Feels super comfortable blitzing and pursuing the quarterback. It's a great trait by him. Inconsistent at times, though. I could definitely see him bounce from safety to corner a lot because you saw that a lot in the film. He goes one-on-one with wide receivers a lot, but then he switches back to safety. I'd say he's going to be a better corner than he is going to be safety because the inconsistency came a lot at the safety position. And another great thing about him is that he's a hard hitter. He's definitely a hard hitter. So in the 4th round, mid-round pick, it makes sense. It's a good pick. Nothing extreme, nothing below average. It's a solid pick in the 4th round. Also in the 4th round, offensive lineman Jack Driscoll. I'm gonna wait on him because they also drafted another Auburn offensive tackle in round 6, Prince Tega Wanogo. Or Wagnogo. Wagnogo. They also drafted him from the same offensive line. And I feel better about round 6, Prince Tega Wagnogo, than I do about Driscoll. So I'll save that for in a second. Jesus Christ, we're an hour in. Fuck. Round 5. Honestly, this is probably my favorite pick out of the Eagles. I like this guy a lot. That's literally the first thing I wrote. I like this guy a lot. Round 5, wide receiver John Hightower out of Boise State. You know I love Boise State, guys. I love me some Broncos. So that's check mark number 1. John Hightower is going to take over for Deshaun Jackson one day. Because he is a deep, fast threat that is going to be hard to maintain if you're a 3rd or 4th corner, even 2nd corner in a defense. The knock on him is that he's not big enough yet. He's only 189. This dude's small, slender. So a lot of people, I would agree with this, is press coverage. If someone's really good at press coverage, this is going to kind of contradict his speedy acceleration and deep threat if they could get press coverage on him. And 50-50 balls really won't be involved with this guy, Hightower, because it will not work out in his favor. Although his acceleration makes up for it. When you look at him in film and on the field, it doesn't look like he tries. In his 40-yard dash, him with pads on the field, the dude just looks like he's comfortable with everything he's doing. He can on a go route, go 60 yards, and not even break a sweat. It's fascinating to me how good of a route runner he is down the field. He just makes it look easy. Like I was saying, 50-50 balls, press coverage. With his acceleration, he can create space. And when he creates space, it's over. Because you can't catch up to him. Unless you're the fastest corner in the league, which a lot of them aren't. It is going to be extremely hard to keep this guy contained. I want you to go look at this guy because this is a steal in round 5. Absolute steal in round 5. Spectacular draft class. And this is the reason why, even in round 5, round 4, 5, 6, it's guys like this that make that class so much better than it is. His acceleration, like I mentioned, he can be the vertical threat. He was a kick returner as well in Boise. Now, watching his film from 2018 to 2019, the amount of progression and improvement he made, and not only the receiver position, but also his vision as a kick returner, was amazing to watch. I was not impressed whatsoever at first when I was watching his film in 2018. And then 2019, he became a whole different animal. He became a different type of player. And it was because of his vision and his correlation to his agility. Both of those things combined in 2019 were so satisfying to watch. Like a guy with that much potential, and he brought it together at the very end of his season. This is why I love this pick so much. Keep an eye on his catching ability because he's a body catcher, and you don't want all your receivers to be like that, especially an accelerating, speedful guy like that. If you're Carson Wentz and you're trying to throw it 6 yards down the field, you want to get it perfect in his hands rather than looking over your shoulder and catching it with your body. Maybe Hightower's used to that, but that's not something that you want in the NFL. You want to catch it with your hands. It did improve a lot from 2018 to 2019, and in the combine drills, I saw a lot more of those catching balls with his hands rather than his body. Defense has got to watch out for this man because if Deshaun Jackson's not healthy, then this guy can take over. But if you have both of those guys on the field, Deshaun healthy and this guy on the field, dude, I'm scared. I'm scared to watch this. This is going to be fun, and I think Carson Wentz will absolutely love this so much. And Hightower can be one of those guys in those stats that not many people talk about, where it's just like, look, he's not going to have a lot of stats. He's not going to have a lot of production in like short throws, medium throws, but down the field, they're going to take shots. The Eagles love to take shots down the field with Deshaun Jackson, and overall, that's what the organization, the team has done for many years. Even without Deshaun Jackson, they love being aggressive, and they love going deep really early in the game. This can be the guy that takes over for that for many years to come. Round 6, linebacker Sean Bradley. Out of Temple. At 6'1", 235, analysts that I've looked into, they say that he's small. I'm not a huge believer in that. When you look at his film, look at him in games, he does not look 6'1", 235 and small. He looks gigantic. He looks like he's the captain. You recognize him immediately in film. Here's the thing on him. And once again, we get back to the point of like, are you answering the concern of linebacker for the Eagles? In my eyes, he doesn't show intensity. He doesn't show aggression for the position. He's definitely a smart player. But if I'm a linebacker that wants to take over as a captain or a leader on that defense, especially with a team like the Eagles that would like that at that position, this is not your guy. There's no aggression. There's no intensity. He doesn't finish plays like I would want him to do. So that's another reason why I'm not a huge fan of this pick. Looking at analysts and looking at the entire overall perspective of Bradley, he looks to be a special teams player, and that would fit him really well. That's what he did in Temple, and a lot of people like him at special teams. It'll be definitely really hard for him to get a start as a linebacker or even make it as a linebacker in general. If he's going straight for linebacker, I don't think he makes the team. If he's going for special teams, he's got a good shot. And definitely, not just with the Eagles, but just in general, a special teams guy like this would definitely help. But once again, it does not answer the question of linebacker. Another round 6 pick is wide receiver Quez Watkins out of Southern Miss. Much like Hightower, a smaller guy at around 185. Was considered a 4th or 5th rounder, so considering where he was projected, this is a steal at the 6th round. It was kind of hard to and kind of tough to judge his play and his overall kind of prospect ability, because he played in Conference USA, and when I was watching his film against like UTEP, I'm like, I can't take this seriously. There's no one at UTEP that can cover any receivers in the Conference USA. So even when you go up against like UAB, Western Kentucky, who are better teams in Conference USA, it's kind of hard to judge whether or not he will be a productive player at that level in the NFL when you're going against lackluster talent in Conference USA. You could torch secondaries no matter who you are, and he did torch secondaries at Southern Miss. Didn't run many routes because he didn't need to. He could run a post route and a go route, and that'd be it. Or maybe like a screen once in a while. But that's all you would need for this guy to make it 40, 50 yards to get a touchdown or a high gain. Because who's going to stop him? Who is going to stop him in Conference USA? I did enjoy watching his jump balls, his 50-50 balls in his 2019 season, because he won them most of the time. His vertical is pretty good. He doesn't need to bulk up, though. He is a very slender receiver, and if he wants to make it with the Eagles or with any other team, he needs to bulk up and see if that transfers over to the NFL. Kind of a weird pick for me because I kind of just can't judge whether or not he'll make it and be a really good player in the NFL. So like I mentioned earlier with Prince Tega Wanogo, I saw a G there, but I didn't. Tega Wanogo and Jack Driscoll. 4th round, Jack Driscoll, or round 6, Prince. I'm going to go Prince. I don't know what it was about Driscoll, but when I was watching film and looked at the analysts' perspective on him, they were saying that he's very light on his feet and he's very like natural at his position. And just watching his film, I didn't feel that. I didn't sense that. I felt like he was very choppy with his technique and his footwork, and his hands were kind of all over the place. He's more pro-ready than Prince is. I do think that Prince has more upside and a lot more potential than Jack. I don't know what it was, just watching film, and I continue to watch film on him against like Alabama, LSU, Auburn, and I just felt that when both guys were on the field at the same time, I wanted to watch Prince more. I was kind of just like uneased by Jack Driscoll's play. I was more impressed by Wanogo's. So round 6 for a better offensive lineman than in round 4. Kind of hard to judge it because the Eagles, I'd say if you're going to draft an Auburn offensive lineman, I would have drafted round 6 or Prince in round 4, or do the other way around. Jack Driscoll at round 6 probably wouldn't have been there, but I think Prince Tega Wanogo has a lot more upside. And the concerns about offensive line for the Eagles, including tackle, is you have Lane Johnson on one side, one of the best in the NFL, but they also got rid of Jason Peters, who is an all-pro left tackle. Now replaced by either Prince Tega Wanogo or Andre Dillard. And he sounded so familiar, and I was like, he sounds young. He sounds like I just heard of him. He's actually was drafted last year in 2019 by the Eagles out of Washington State. And watching his film, I'm actually impressed by Dillard. So I think he's going to be the starter next year. Prince is going to learn under him. Now they have some solid options at left tackle. And now they also have some depth at Jack Driscoll at right tackle. But I'm saying who's going to have the better career? I honestly think Tega Wanogo is going to have a better career than Jack Driscoll. It's going to take some more time for Prince to develop. I'd rather take that chance than Jack Driscoll because I just see a lot more fluidity, see a lot more natural ability for Prince, and I like his footwork better, I like his hands better. I like Prince better, man. I don't know why. So another bad round pick by the Eagles at where like he could have gone and where they should have drafted him, because at Jack Driscoll in round 4, I would have drafted Prince myself. So yeah. Last one, round 7, linebacker Casey Toohill from Stanford for the Philadelphia Eagles. 6'4", 250, with more room to grow with muscle mass, which is nice to see because, like I mentioned, 6'4" is a nice height, but if you want to get him like 260, 270, definitely an improvement for a linebacker position. Love his pursuit for plays going away from him. He doesn't give up on plays, so this is a type of guy that I love a lot. Had 8.5 sacks last year with Stanford, an impressive stat for a guy that plays for a Pac-12 conference team. Little small for the position. He actually, so like I mentioned, linebacker, but he actually played edge rusher a lot in college. He played that a lot more than he did linebacker. And, looking at some analysts, they were saying like wide 9 technique, and I was like, well, what does that mean? I don't know exactly the terms for that. He's going to fit a lot better in a 4-3 type of scheme, which is 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, because that way he can play outside of either the tackles or the tight ends. You want to get that wide send in because his speed and agility can help him out a lot rather than playing with the hands of a tackle. So if you spread him out pretty wide onto the field and blitz him, he's going to do a lot better in a 4-3 set than he would in a 3-4 set. And the Eagles are a 4-3 set, so this fits a lot better. Honestly, this is probably the best fit for the Eagles because, yes, they could use an edge rusher, and he's going to take some time to develop, but 8.5 sacks, you love his durability, you love his intensity, that he finished plays. I'd prefer that over a guy that's better talent and just doesn't finish plays. His speed, his agility, his ability to rush the quarterback. What was I? Oh, okay. Sorry, I wrote this down a little differently. He relies on his speed and agility, but I wouldn't say that's his best attribute or his best feature. Now, what I did like is that he can keep up with the big linemen and hold his own. There was some moments where he's going against some pretty big name schools, and he's pushing the offensive tackle. And I was like, dude, you look a lot smaller than that, dude. He's probably got 100 pounds on you, but you're holding your own. So I'm impressed by this guy. At round 7, I'm impressed by him. And probably the best linebacker that is ready for the Eagles to put him in out of everyone. I love Davion Taylor a lot as an athlete, but not as a linebacker. All ready to go. And I'm not a huge fan of Sean Bradley from Temple in round 6. So at round 7, you get a better linebacker than you did in rounds 3 and 5, 3 and 6. So I don't really have a problem with the players they actually got. There are some where I'm like, that's questionable. It's just the position or the order they picked them in. That's what I'm trying to say. Is round 2 for Jalen Hurts? No. Round 4 for Driscoll is not for me. When you didn't answer the questions of linebackers earlier, you hit on wide receivers. 100% you hit on wide receivers. I think the Eagles did phenomenal at that position. Everything else was not answered. Cornerback, safety, linebacker. And with the Eagles, I'm really a fan of their defense. I think that was the main reason why they won the Super Bowl years ago. Is their defense was physical, was aggressive. That's what made them such a great team. So they need to get back to that. And with Jim Schwartz being their defensive coordinator, they're going to continue to be physical. They're going to continue to be aggressive. Just physicality across the board. And they still have a lot of great players that embody that were from that team. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett. And then they add Darius Slay in the secondary. That's an improvement, but that doesn't solve all your issues. So I didn't think they did a very good job of that other than wide receiver. And they just pick players that may work, may not. So overall, give me your opinion, but I give the Eagles a C+. A lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts. A lot of that has to do with the pick in round 2 of Jalen Hurts. If it was round 4 Jalen Hurts and linebacker in round 2, I would have said B+, B-, or B. I would have definitely been in that second tier. It's the fact that you drafted the quarterback that I did not like at all in this draft. Round 2 instead of 4 or 5. And you're not even using him for a quarterback. You're using him for a Taysom Hill lookalike or copycat. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like you should focus more on defense because you solved the issues on offense. You could have, it was a good idea to go with Winogo out of Auburn. And getting him around 6 was a good, solid pickup. But everything else should have been defense, not Jalen Hurts. Absolutely not. That's going to do it because we're an hour and 15 minutes in. I am so sorry. I thought this was going to go shorter. But thank you so much if you've gotten this far into the video, for watching, for listening. We're going to come back later on with a video on the Cowboys and the Giants draft class and what my thoughts are on them. So we'll come back. This is like episode 131, I think. Probably, I don't know. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Bubble Let Sports Podcast. It's been your boy, Bubble Let's.
Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now do you keep it classy or you keep it ratchet? For the man with the magic. Now who is he? It's the